My name's Samantha. I'm 48 years old. I teach language arts at a junior high school. My husband, George, is 45 years old. He works at a car dealership. As the dominant one in our family, I hold the reins at home. Whether I'm older or not, it's probably the same in many households. We have two daughters, one in her second year of high school and the other in her first year of junior high. Both are girls. My husband has many hobbies and loves flashy things. He's also quite vain. Yet, to me, he always seemed like a mischievous little boy. That's why I fell for him. He'd suddenly buy oil paints, wanting to try painting, then quickly lose interest. He'd buy an expensive fishing reel, wanting to try fishing, and then get bored. It's an endless loop. He has no lasting hobbies. While I'm amazed at his lack of planning, I think it's fine as long as he stays within his allowance. I'm in charge of the finances, so it's okay. It's okay, but sometimes my husband does something incredibly silly, and it troubles me. Hey, I want to go camping. That's trendy right now. A few days after that conversation, I signed us up for a membership-based campsite. Let's go as a family. It's spacious and beautiful, a really nice place. Let's buy a tent right away and a barbecue set. Oh, and the annual fee for the campsite. How much is it? The tent is $600, the barbecue set $400, and the annual fee $2,000, a total of $3,000. Cancel it. I was frantic, trying to cancel the campsite and various other things my husband had already signed up for. He sulked as his plans were scrapped and locked himself in the car. Our two daughters always look at us with disbelief in such situations. Neither of them wanted to go camping in the first place. Such incidents are part of the routine in our household. Even the car my husband locked himself in was bought following one of his whims. We don't use a car that often. Our daughters are not at an age where they enjoy going out with the family. It would have been enough if the car could fit the four of us for occasional outings. Yet my husband insisted on a large car with 3 rows of seats, despite his work offering a discount. It was expensive and consumes a lot of gas, so I wish he would live more sensibly. But we settled this by having him take responsibility for the car loan. In this way, my sensible self and my flashy husband continue our small battles. Still, we've gotten along well for 20 years. However, a major uproar occurred, unlike anything before. I must share my exasperation and anger, and my husband's foolishness. Even as a school teacher, I seem to have failed in educating my husband. He had been in a great mood for a while, probably for about 2 months, I think. I could tell the tension meant he had started a new hobby. Usually he'd tell me in advance, I'm thinking of starting this, but not this time. I wonder what he started this time. It seems fun. I was too busy with my daughter's activities and my work to inquire deeply, and I ended up regretting it. One Friday night, everyone was relaxing at home since the next day was a day off. I was being soothed by cute animal videos on TV, and my daughters were playing games on their smartphones. Then suddenly my husband stood up and said loudly, "Everyone, listen to this." "What?" she responded nonchalantly. My older daughter and I turned to look at him. He spread his arms wide and began speaking excitedly. "Guess what I'm going to tell you?" "No, listen to me, please." His momentum was interrupted by our younger daughter's indifferent response. She was looking at her smartphone and not listening to him at all. Feeling a bit sorry for him, I decided to engage in the conversation. "Did you start a new hobby?" "Nope." He wagged his index finger from side to side. It was a theatrical gesture. Thanks to that, my older daughter, who had briefly paid attention, returned to her smartphone world. Oh dear, I was the only audience left, but my husband, undeterred, proudly announced, "Listen to this. I bought a house." "What? Bought a house?" Surely he doesn't mean an actual house. A house? He looked extremely pleased. On the TV, it was showing a dog waiting to be praised by its owner, and George was just like it. "Wait, hold on. What do you mean? How can you decide something like that on your own?" "I chose the land and the house builder, and signed the contract on my way home from work today. It's a 2-family house. Isn't it great?" "What? Are you out of your mind? How can you just decide something like that without consulting me?" I was so shocked that I screamed. "This is unbelievable. How could you decide such an important thing on your own? I can't believe this." "Well, you would have definitely opposed it if I had told you, right? Just like you did with the camping." "Don't compare camping with buying a house." My husband seemed quite pleased with himself. Where is there anything to be proud of in this situation? No, now is not the time to be trying to understand my husband. "What do you mean you already signed a contract?" "Yes, I have. Look, here's the contract. Ta-da!" I snatched the contract he pulled out and read it from end to end. My agitation made it hard to process the information. "Calm down, me." I took a deep breath. Wow, Dad really did sign it. This is bad. "Seriously? What about our school?" The daughters peeked at the contract from the side. They seemed to be reading the contract more calmly than I was. "Oh, there's an estimate here." "What? $500,000? Do houses cost that much?" "This is crazy. Is this for real?" 500,000. He's made a contract for such a huge amount? My heart was pounding loudly. Words like divorce and bankruptcy started popping up in my mind. "Don't worry, we have the money in our family." "Wait, no, we don't have any money. We don't have the income or savings to take on a debt of 500,000. But I couldn't yet voice this out. Guess what? My wife has saved up 400,000. I used it as a fund for our family's happiness. The remaining 100,000 or so we can cover with our income. What? I was genuinely terrified by my husband's carefree laughter. No, we don't have such a thing. What savings are you talking about? Lying is bad, you know. I've already found the evidence. About 2 months ago, I discovered an account record in your name with a savings of $400,000. What's that? A secret stash? No, it's not. With that much money, there was no need to be stingy about camping or a car. Such a cruel wife, rejecting all my wishes while hoarding so much for yourself. I know it was wrong to use it without asking, but after all the things I've had to endure, it's fair. And it's not for my hobbies, but for the family's happiness. Besides, you also use a car that I bought with my money. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine, right? It's not right. No way. I was so astonished, I didn't know where to start. Dad, that's really low. I don't want to transfer schools. What? Why not? You girls want your own rooms, right? I also want a hobby room. I want to build a nice garage. I was thinking of living with a big family, including my parents. The daughters fell silent in confusion. I wanted to join in their confusion and remain silent. But before that, wait, it's really not that. That money isn't mine. What? My husband looked at me, bewildered. I held my head and shouted, "That money was entrusted to me by your parents." "What? A gift? Why to you and not me?" "No, you idiot!" I slammed the table in frustration. A cup on the table fell over, but I couldn't care less. "That money, your parents saved it for their retirement. They put it in my account to prevent fraud or other troubles, just temporarily. It's supposed to be returned when they need it." "What?" My husband was dumbfounded, his mouth agape. The daughters put their smartphones down and huddled together. I didn't know about that." "Of course you didn't. Your sensible parents wouldn't entrust it to a spendthrift son like you." "What? But is it not your savings?" "I'm telling you it's not. How can we afford a house that costs $500,000? It's impossible for us." "Well, I've only signed a contract for the land. The house design can still be changed. But I did use your bank card for the preliminary mortgage review." "Here we have a real fool. Can't we cancel it?" "What? You're telling me to give up on the house?" "Of course. We can't afford it without money." I looked over the contract and other documents again. I couldn't afford to read them through carefully. I had to figure out how to deal with this ridiculous contract as soon as possible. Upon closer inspection, the contract my husband signed was a sales agreement. He had completed a purchase agreement, finished a preliminary review, and then moved on to the main contract. He had even completed the official sales agreement with signatures. The deposit was $50,000. He had withdrawn it without permission. According to the contract, it seemed possible to cancel the contract by forfeiting the deposit at this stage. But wait, $50,000 is a lot of money. If we had that, we could have bought a car without a loan. We could have covered our daughter's education without a student loan. It's absolutely impossible to buy a $500,000 house just before turning one's 50s. But we couldn't just give up on the house after paying a $50,000 deposit either. It's a no-win situation either way. What do we do? After spending an entire night awake, pondering over it, we contacted the real estate agent first thing in the next morning. Although they sympathized with our situation when we explained it, they still said we could only cancel the contract by forfeiting the deposit. They seemed willing to discuss a reduction, but it didn't look hopeful. That evening, feeling desperate, we went to my in-laws to ask for a loan. Our daughter stayed home. My husband looked pale from lack of sleep and shock. My complexion wasn't much better. We reached the front door of my in-laws' house and rang the doorbell. "Ah, you're here. Come in." The door was opened by my father-in-law. He's turning 78 this year. My mother-in-law is 68. Both of them are still actively working as members of a Silver Talent Center. We had asked them to make time for us today, even though it was a burden. As we sat on the sofa, my mother-in-law served us coffee. "What an utterly useless son! First of all, it's unthinkable to use your wife's bank account money without her permission." He scolded my husband like that. "And trying to buy a house without even discussing it with the family? What a foolish thing to do." I'm sorry. Your selfishness has saddled your family with a debt of $50,000. That's terrible." I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I thought it would be fun once the house was built, inviting you guys over and living together happily." His voice trailed off. My father-in-law kept scolding him, bringing up various past mistakes my husband had made. My mother-in-law listened while checking the contract he had signed. I was torn between I should be on my father-in-law's side or I should take responsibility in solidarity with my husband. As my father-in-law's endless lecture became uncomfortable, my husband raised his voice as if to interrupt him. "But I was thinking of everyone's happiness. If I had known it was my parents' money, I wouldn't have done this." "Oh, really? Thinking of everyone's happiness?" she said calmly, looking up from the blueprints she was examining. My husband leaned towards my mother-in-law, who seemed more willing to listen than my angry father-in-law. "Yes, of course. But that's strange. Aside from your hobby room and garage, all the other rooms are just small rooms, aren't they?" "What?" I exclaimed. I hadn't noticed that. Caught up in the contract and jargon, I had only glanced over the blueprints. "Look, Samantha, both children's rooms are small. The bedroom is small too. Our room also. But the hobby room is huge. The garage faces south, while the living room faces north. There's an unbelievably large balcony. There's even an open-air bath, but our granddaughters would hate having one in a residential area, wouldn't they? The kitchen is small. For a two-family house, having only one stove burner is ridiculous. Where in this blueprint can you read happiness for the whole family?" "You're right." Looking at it again, this house was all about my husband's happiness, not the family's. "What is this?" Well, I got carried away with my dream. Ugh, I'm so angry. I can't deal with this." The idea of asking my in-laws with this man for money became absurd. I was done being tossed around by his selfish dreams. "I'm getting a divorce. You can live with your debt by yourself." "What? Why are you surprised?" "I'm shocked that you're surprised." My father-in-law was flustered, saying, Well, my mother-in-law calmly continued reading the other documents. My anger wasn't subsiding. "Thinking about such selfish things and calling it family happiness? You were planning to show everyone in tiny rooms and live happily by yourself. That's the worst. I'm disappointed in you." "No, it's not like that. The real estate agent drew these plans on their own." "I don't want to hear your excuses." I was angrier than I had ever been, and my husband looked teary-eyed. "I'm sorry. I was really stupid. Forgive me." "I won't forgive you. Pay your compensation and child support properly, you fool." My father-in-law had become silent, just watching quietly. My husband knelt down from the sofa and began to beg. His apologies and pleas only fueled the fire. My anger escalated. Then my mother-in-law spoke again calmly. "So, the real estate agent wrote this without your knowledge?" "Yes, that's right." "Then the plans can still be changed." "Yes, they can still be. Well, then, let's build a house." "What?" "Why not? A two-family house. Get a divorce, and let's build a two-family house. It's a waste to throw away the deposit." "What?" My husband and I were dumbfounded. And then my father-in-law. "A divorce? And then a two-family house? You want to separate me and my daughters and live happily with just your son?" "Wait a minute, mother-in-law. Were you always this lenient with your son?" "However, we'll need to completely revise the blueprints. The real estate registration should be done in Samantha's name. What? Wait, if we're divorced, I'm not with them, right? So why would the house be in my name? Why is that? I've checked the land, and it's not a bad location. The grandkids will need to be driven to and from the station every day, but the road access is good, and supermarkets and hospitals are nearby, so let's build here. We'll lend you the $50,000 our son squandered. Then, after the divorce, he will give you the land as compensation. We'll build a two-family house on that land and live there with Samantha and the granddaughters. What about me? You can live happily on your own, can't you? She said it so calmly. Mother-in-law, not so lenient with your son after all. In fact, it's super hard mode. Mom, why are you taking Samantha's side? Be quiet, she sharply rebuked my husband's retort. I trust Samantha. We trusted her enough to entrust her with our retirement funds. There's no one as dependable as her. Samantha, we will help you financially as much as we can, so let's build the two-family house. Our foolish son is probably still counting on our savings. The $50,000 deposit, compensation, child support, his hobby expenses. I refuse to give him any more money. If it comes to that, I'd rather spend it on Samantha and the granddaughters. That's right. I also don't want to make life easy for such a son. You listen. We are only lending you the $50,000. Write a proper loan agreement and pay it back to your mother and me. What? That's, my husband exclaimed, but he fell silent under the stern gaze of my in-laws. My in-laws were on my side. Or maybe it's better to say they had become my husband's enemies. I had always been prepared to care for my in-laws in their old age since they trusted me with their retirement funds. So I don't mind living with my in-laws. In my life plan, buying a house and getting a divorce were irregular. Living with my ex-husband's parents feels a bit twisted. But what if I don't live with my in-laws? My husband would return to them, indulge in his whims, and deplete their savings. I can't let that happen. I need to make my husband realize the consequences of his actions. If I think that my life plan is unchanged except for the absence of my husband, then it doesn't seem so bad. I thanked my in-laws. Thank you. I'll do my best. Samantha, 48, makes a decision to buy a house with her husband's wails as the background music. 6 months later. Today is moving day. Mom, is this my room? Yes, dear, start bringing in your stuff. Okay, Grandpa, help me. All right. He seemed pleased to be asked for help by his granddaughter. Watching this, I reflected on the tumultuous past 6 months. Getting a divorce from my reluctant husband, transferring the land rights, designing the house, preparing for the move. Time flew by so quickly. My husband, not wanting a divorce or to be abandoned by his parents, resisted strongly. But neither I nor my in-laws showed mercy, and our daughters were fed up with him. Unable to withstand the pressure, he eventually accepted the divorce. Initially, my husband moved into a monthly apartment. However, his expenses for car loans, living alone, and child support mounted, and he left the apartment. Now he's living in his car, the one with the spacious 3-row seat. How convenient for him. He can even recommend it to his customers. The house we're moving into today, a brand new single-family home, is surely a source of regret for him. The layout, decided after consulting with my in-laws and daughters, is completely different from his original plan. It has a bright entrance and living room, a spacious washstand, and each child's room is big. My bedroom and my in-laws' room are also satisfying. By eliminating the unnecessary hobby room, garage, and open-air bath, the cost was reduced to $360,000. My in-laws contributed $200,000 from their savings, so I took out a mortgage for $160,000. It's a stretch until I'm 70, but the monthly payments are similar to rent. In a few years, my daughters will be independent, so it should be fine. Samantha, should this box go in the kitchen? I can carry it, don't worry. It's fine, I'm still young. My in-laws are healthy. As they say, they're still young. Listening to the cheerful voices of my in-laws and daughters, I thought to myself, a mortgage, in-laws, daughters. I'm carrying many burdens, but the heaviest one is gone. Right now, I feel nothing but happiness. This is the right path for my life.